Hi everybody, it's Rob Lutz. It's July 1st, Canada Day, so I'm bringing a special episode of the Stories Behind the Songs to share a couple of songs that functioned as national anthems in Canada long before O Canada became our official anthem in 1980. O Canada was written in 1880. The music was composed by Calixa Lavallee, who was from Verchères, but eventually was based in Montreal. And the lyrics were by Antoine Rouchier, who was Quebecois, and the song was originally called the Chant National. It was performed at a ceremony in Quebec City for the Lieutenant Governor in 1880. And the English lyrics were not written until 1913 by Robert Stanley Muir, who's was the controller of Montreal, the city of Montreal. So he's sort of the head administrator, you could say, of the city. And the English lyrics were really created because this French piece had become quite popular. We of course had God Save the Queen, and I guess now it would be God Save the King, and that was still fairly frequently used definitely in the 19th century and into the early part of the 20th century. Declining use and almost probably rarely used now unless we have some kind of royal visit. But there were two other songs, and the first one was written by a Scottish immigrant, Alexander Muir, who was born in Scotland in 1830. His parents brought him to Canada in 1833, to Toronto, and he grew up there. He ended up going to Queen's College in Kingston, graduated in 1851, and became a teacher, and eventually would teach at a number of different schools in Newmarket, in Leslieville, an area of Toronto, and finally teaching at Gladstone Public School, which is somewhere near the corner of Queen and Dufferin. And the school, actually Gladstone Public School, was renamed the Alexander Muir Junior and Senior Public School. And in 1867, when Confederation was happening, there was a contest held to write a song about this new nation called Canada. And Alexander Muir was very active in the arts, very active in his teaching in sports. He was a very progressive teacher. He didn't believe in the stern disciplinarian sort of approach of traditional schooling. And so he kind of used the arts and sports to kind of bring his students to a better way of thinking about themselves and about Canada. He was really dedicated and committed to this country, and was very excited, like many people were at the time of Confederation. And so he was walking with a friend, George Leslie, who's actually the namesake of Leslieville, this area of Toronto, east of the Don Valley, north of Lakeshore, and bordered on the north by the CNR Railway and Gerrard Street. And they were walking together famously, and this is George Leslie who told this story in a very early recounting of it, after the song had been written. And they were discussing what Muir should write about to enter a song in this contest. And a maple leaf fell on Leslie's arm, and he looked down, saw it, and he said, maybe you should write about the maple leaf. And the leaf had been used. There was a royal visit in 1860, and a number of Toronto citizens had started using the maple leaf to identify them as native-born Canadians. Even though Canada wasn't a country yet, they were born in the colony. And so there's some sense that leaf was in use. But if we think about it, it could have been, think about Canadian trees. It could have been a pine cone. It could have been birch. It could have been oak. It could have been, 1,000 probably different trees. But there was a famous maple tree on Lang Street in this area of Toronto. And he wrote this poem inspired by this. And he thought, the English have the rose, the Irish have the shamrock, the Scottish have the thistle. Why can't Canadians have something? And so this was the idea. That would get him into a little bit of trouble, and I'll explain that in a second. But he wrote this poem and composed music himself for the song. The melody is very much of that 19th century. There's not a hint of African-American influence of blues or jazz or ragtime, anything that was to come. This was 1867, so it's really like almost like a classical marching band folk melody. He wrote this poem, set it to music, and submitted it, and came second in the competition But his friends encouraged him to print it, so he printed 1,000 sheet music copies of it, and it sold out and was very popular. And so he printed more and more, and it would go on to be a million seller in sheets and become used in schools across this new country and into the 20th century. My mother remembered singing it in school. So this was a song that was put to great use. What did he have to write about? Canada wasn't a country, hadn't really done much. The one thing we did have was the War of 1812. So this song and the next one I'm going to play, which is from a little bit later in the 19th century, of course, reference some battles, important battles, Queenston Heights and Lundy's Lane, which were two really important ones. Another thing to note is that Alexander Muir, put his money where his mouth was. When the Fenians attacked in 1866, this was a group of Irish Americans, and essentially the idea was to attack Canada, but the real goal was to distract the British from their treatment of Ireland, and it was basically to distract them so that Ireland could gain its freedom. And so it wasn't really about taking over Canada, but they wanted to kind of make things difficult in the colony. So he, went to that war and fought. And so, obviously, believed in Canada as an entity at that time. So I'll play this song, and you'll know the melody. It's not, I think we're fortunate in a way that it didn't become our anthem because it's quite jaunty. You could do it at different speeds, but it's typically done at this sort of mid-tempo. And he references Wolfe, from the Plains of Abraham battle. So this got him into trouble because the song was not very popular among the French. And in one line in the song, you'll hear he says, "The thistle, shamrock, rose entwined, the maple leaf forever." Well, he forgot the French. And he realized this, and he thought, if the song is going to have legs, I have to change it. So he changed it from the thistle, shamrock, rose entwined to the lily, thistle, shamrock, rose, the maple leaf forever. But it would never actually survive because it's a little too Anglophile in its lyrics. So you'll hear what I mean going on here. So here's the Maple Leaf Forever from 1867, Alexander Muir. In days of yore from Britain's shore, Wolfe, the dauntless hero, came and planted firm Britannia's flag on Canada's fair domain. Here may it wave our boast, our pride, and joined in love together. The thistle, shamrock, rose entwined, the maple leaf forever. The maple leaf, our emblem dear, the maple leaf forever. God save our queen and heaven bless the maple leaf forever. At Queenston Heights and Lundy's Lane, our brave fathers side by side for freedom's home and loved ones dear firmly stood and nobly died. And those dear rights which they maintained, we swear to yield them never. Our watchword evermore shall be the maple leaf forever. Our fair dominion now extends from Cape Race to Nootka Sound. May peace forever be our lot, and plenteous store abounds. And may those ties of love be ours, which discord cannot sever, and flourish green o'er heaven's home, the maple leaf forever. Oh, the maple leaf, our emblem dear, the maple leaf forever. God save our queen and heaven bless the maple leaf forever. On merry England's far famed land, may kind heaven sweetly smile. God bless old Scotland evermore, and Ireland's emerald isle, and swell the song both loud and long, till rocks and forests quiver. God save our queen and heaven bless the maple leaf forever. And that may have been a couple beats too quick, because there's a lot of words to get out. But it kind of rolls along very much in that sort of patriotic, almost military band music, that with that prosody where every syllable of every word falls on a note in the melody, and it bum, 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 proceeds that way. And that, of course, was about to change. Music was about to change, where we were about to have a lot more improvisation and different notes, and with the influence of African American music. So it's an interesting little, almost like a time capsule from that era, as many songs are. The second song I want to play today is close to my heart because it's written by someone from St. John, Edwin G. Nelson. He was a bookseller. His father was a bookseller, and he was a bookseller. He was born in 1848, died in 1904. He wrote this song in 1887 and published it. And by 1896, it had sold 1.5 million copies. This is, a big, big hit. The song was used in schools around the Maritimes and across the country. It was performed by military bands. It was performed in Europe. It had quite a life, and the use declined after World War II. I'm not sure why, but part of me thinks that after that war, with the sort of uniting of Canada and Britain again in this effort, that I think God Save the Queen probably came back a little stronger. Oh Canada was definitely coming into greater use then, and this song and Maple Leaf Forever were slowly fading out of use in schools and prominence. But it definitely had its time. There's a great article which I will put in the description below about the tune. It's about Edwin Nelson actually in the writing of this tune. It's from Maclean's Magazine, 1913. It's a fascinating little look at Edwin Nelson, who lived on Pitt Street in St. John for many years, was a fierce supporter of the British. St. John was the loyalist city. Edwin Nelson wouldn't stock books that supported the U.S. He really had a legacy of that sense of wanting to be connected to Britain and not to the States. So I'll play the song now. It's called My Own Canadian Home, and the origin of the song, or the inspiration of the song, was that Edwin Nelson was on a steamship in the St. John River, and there was some Italians and other Europeans on the boat, and they were talking about the wonders of Europe and how great Europe was. And I don't know if it irked him, but it inspired him, and he wrote this poem, which he turned into a song. And you'll hear the melody very similar to Maple Leaf Forever from the same period of time, a little bit later, but still no hint of any influence of anything other than European music. And, like I said, sort of military, patriotic, marching type music with this very structured prosody. So we'll see how I do on it. It is quite a beautiful song. And again, same subject matter, the beauty and grandeur of this immense country, Canada, with its natural beauty. And he references the War of 1812. So here it is. My Own Canadian Home by Edwin Nelson and Morely McLaughlin, or Thomas Morley, and was a million seller and a big, big, big tune in Canada, in an anthem, a functional anthem until just before the Second World War. Though other skies may be as bright and other lands as fair, though charms of other climes invite my wandering footsteps there, yet there is one, the peer of all, beneath bright heaven's dome. Of thee I sing, O happy land, my own Canadian home. A noble heritage is thine, so grand and fair and free, a fertile land where he who toils will well rewarded be, and he who joys in nature's charms exulting here may roam, mid scenes of grandeur which adorn my own Canadian home. And doubt not, should a foeman's hand be armed to strike at thee, thy trumpet call throughout the land need scarce repeated be. And bravely as on Queenston Heights or as in Lundy's Lane, thy sons will battle for thy rights and freedom's cause maintain. Did kindly heaven afford to me the choice where I would dwell, fair Canada, that choice would be the land I love so well. I love thy hills and valleys wide, thy waters flash and foam. May God in love o'er thee preside, my own Canadian home. So there's a very patriotic song from 1887 by Edwin Nelson called My Own Canadian Home. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and happy Canada Day.